that something's going to happen. That this whole process in Russia is like a dance at the edge of the abyss. That's how I felt it, and I was trying to find this precise place and the precise characters that would depict this feeling, which I had in St. Petersburg, in Moscow also, which looked totally different than this small town in the north of Russia, but where you can feel it, feel such process. And then I found this Apatity town, which appeared in a beautiful place, actually, in where there is nothing but snow, stones, and this in winter, this Arctic night. Yes, and also in this place there was nothing. Also, like local folks which lived in this area. They didn't settle particularly in this place because it was not used for living, though it is beautiful, but cold. And what was made in the beginning of the 20th century, at the Stalin's time, the new places of natural resources were found, like this Apatity ore, from which it is made these phosphorus distillers to make plants grow in the north, and all other, like it's chemical industry. And quite a lot of places like this were found in the north, and there were working camps built, which transformed into the towns later. So it is a perfect place depicting what was created in the Soviet Union. This situation of pragmatism and pragmatic attitude to the people also. But also with some kind of this Soviet propagandistic culture, which in Soviet Union was needed to make people, to involve people in the process, industrial process, and also in political process. And when I was when I was thinking thinking about the film, like what we are filming about, like if I can, it was already, the research was finished, and I was thinking on where to put the camera and how I film it. I thought, what do I see? How do I exactly name what I see? Because Immortal is very broad. It's very wide concept. And what I see in the faces of the people, what I see in the events that we film. And for me, it was the word like voluntary slavery. Yeah, voluntary slavery. And then I went to the Declaration of the Human Rights, which was created after the Second World War. And it was the first document where the formula like human rights appeared. And this also regulates and describes what the slavery is. And due to this description, which exists by now, and which is used for for all the right protectors in the world, and for at least between the countries which were involved in the Second World War. It is used for creating laws protecting human rights. And what is written there, this formula of what is slavery, it is quite broad actually. So if you appear in this situation of Immortal, which is showed in the film, it can't be called slavery. But actually it is, because no one thought, maybe not. I think people thought about it because the discussion was very special around these human rights, because after such, such chaos and such amount of blood which was in this war, and the amount of destruction. People who wrote this declaration, they needed to, the goal was never to let this happen again. So they made kind of a formula which could prevent the events to repeat, such events to repeat. We see now that with the war in Ukraine, it is a great fail, I think, first for Russia, but also for, I think, all the countries that took part in the Second World War, that this catastrophe had happened again, and with the same breaking of these human rights. And what happens from the Russian side now is actually the same, situation of the slavery, when people are involved to do something that they it takes their free will from them, and which doesn't let them to decide how they live their life. So if you this formula of slavery is in this declaration is written people can work or take part in any activities only when they do it for free will. So they have a kind of a document, like agreement. So they agreed on it, and that this agreement has ending date. So this is the only criteria for which slavery is, differs from any other activities which considered to be a free will. So if for example, if in Russia someone decides to go for a war, then what guys have at the war now, these soldiers, they have a document signed by them that they go for this, they are paid for this, and it has the ending. Though the rest, how they signed it, how they pushed to sign it, in what conditions, on which kind of which kind of situation was when they signed it, nothing really matters. But what we see in the what I wanted to show in the film, that the whole life from the very childhood for these guys in the small towns, it is it brings them to this decision. So because they are not raised by their mothers and fathers, they're actually raised by state institutions, which bring the propagandistic stuff from the beginning of their life into their heads, which they don't get enough. Their parents are not paid well, so they can't afford a lot. So the army is a social lift for them. Yeah. In addition, the situation, of this whole, industrial town is that you want to go wherever outside this town is better. Even war can be better. So, and after this, what we have, because people who are at war, these are people from the small towns. War in Russia is for the poor ones. So what we have, if you ask why people do go for the war, they go because of this situation. And actually, when the war started, it was a kind of a nightmare for me. And I thought to myself, I better make another film. I better make another images, not to, I don't know, because I have the feeling that I appeared in the end, right in the middle of my film. Yeah, it was scary. And I think it was right thing to make this film, because you can see the process, and you can, analyze the current situation also through it. But I thought that I better imagine myself something else, that maybe some different reality could happen. Yeah. And what we show, it's not it's humiliation, of course, out of which humiliation of human dignity, of these children's dignity, out of which comes violence. and after which comes a lot of suffering. And that's something that I still insist on, that, like after any humiliation comes suffering. But of course, this doesn't. I can't say that I advocate them because they were humiliated, because every single person has choice, and we get born free, and each person can make something with it. What I mean to say that for these guys, it's the hardest job ever. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And I would listen to your questions, and I would discuss with you what you saw, and I would hear your point of view of how do you see, with pleasure.
So thank you very much for this introduction. I think you already answered some questions that we probably all have. And I don't know, I will invite our audience, if some of you have any questions. You can also, I'm speaking in English because I don't speak Russian, but if someone wants to ask in Russian, it's of course also accepted. Yes, you can come here because, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, congratulations on the project. I'm a filmmaker myself, so seeing this is, really inspiring. And I used to live in Ukraine before the war, so seeing this is a big thing for me. And I really admire. I wanted to start with a comment that I admired the way this large machinery. At the beginning, we see the trains and we see the large metallic structures at the beginning. At the end, I like how you use this as a character. This was almost, in a way, to me, my impression, you were talking about impressions, was a protagonist. And then all the people were sort of the ensemble, you could say, disposable, because we see the grave, we see the babies, but the thing that remains is the machinery. So I like how you took those inanimate things, those non-living things, and almost there's like you see how in this place they serve almost like it's a greater importance than the people, so
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
yeah, and it was executed beautifully. And but the question I had while I was watching it is, I was very curious, what are your influences as a filmmaker? What films really inspire you or have inspired you?
For particularly this film, actually I was more inspired by photos. Because yeah, and the only reference at that moment, was it was, like my DOP said that, like, you are crazy if you make such references, but it was this French film, no, Holy Motors, and the Ridley Scott Anti-Utopia, Blade Runner and Holy Motors. That's what we had, and we wanted to create this cosmic space. And actually, main goal was to make these portraits without faces, so that you see the face, but you actually can't recognize particular person. So it's a portrait, but a kind of portrait without self-identity. That was the goal, and it is kind of a trend in the photo, and we used a lot of such references from photos and from pictures from the art, also, to create this what you called, to create this collective protagonist from the metal elements, transmitting ore, and people also, these buses and trains, and for the people also to create this kind of crowd feeling.
Oh, okay. And more specifically, if I can ask, so that's for the movie, but for you, I was curious, just you as a filmmaker, as an individual wanting to make films. I was curious what. It's a very big question, but I, as a filmmaker, am very curious what films have inspired you in your life and made you want to make films. Anything off the top of your head?
Actually, you know, like books more inspire me more. I love Shakespeare. I like Shakespeare. I love poetry. I love Sufi poetry, and it's in general. I love Ridley Scott a lot, so it's one of my favorites. That's one of my top directors. He's very different, but and he has a strong philosophy, which I like, though he's a kind of a genre person. I love Sergei Laznitsa's films also. They inspired me a lot. And maybe here it is, but I watch different stuff. I love opera also. So you can see that it's, you know, like I love the stage and opera stuff. You can see it in Immortal also.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and congratulations on the film. It's really something.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay.
so thank you so much for this documentary. I have a question. Like in the beginning, you stated that inhabitants of the city are descendants of those who were imprisoned in local gulags, right? And I maybe kind of expected that you would elaborate on that. Like, what is the difference between like people living in this part of Russia with this kind of like family histories and maybe the others? So I was wondering if you did some whatever like research among these people, if you like know what their отношение to their family history is, and if you could maybe like elaborate on that. Then also I saw in the credits that you worked with Memorial, right?
Yeah.
What was the input of Memorial in your movie? So these would be my questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the input of Memorial was great on the development stage, because and it was starting from the selection of the location. These Memorial guys are my friends, and I was monitoring on what's going on, and they actually advised me to go to check out Apatity, because our actually much more of such towns are in Siberia. But it's hard and expensive to get to Siberia, and you know, like Apatity is very near. It's I think it's the most, you know, like typical place like this with interesting Gulag background in the European part of Russia. And they also gave me their research, and they gave me the contacts of local researchers whom I met and who showed me the places where there were camps and told me the stories. And I met quite a lot of people who I can't say that, you know, like for such places, people come all the time because there is a factory, there is a job, and, you know, like whenever you need a job and you don't have it in your own town, you look for it and you know, like go. And I met the descendants of people who were imprisoned in Stalin times, but much, quite a big layer of the inhabitants were also the descendants or those, you know, like I met some nice old lady who came after the Second World War, because she came from the south, from Volgograd. You know, this town was totally destroyed. And they just, with her husband, they get on the train and decided that they will get off the train whenever they find a job. And that was the reason. That's how they got there. And they lived in terrible conditions. And and I asked, you know, what did you stay here? You're from the south, and you know, like it's not the best place for living. And she said, well, of course, okay, but they had some warm hot water we had some hot water in our apartments, and we had some job, and it was it was much more confident what we had at those times in the south, which was destroyed. What she told me, like, and also in prisoners were like real уголовники, real criminals, killers and thieves. And she said that she actually was, and also political prisoners, so it was a mix. And she said that this lady particularly, that she was scared of going to the job and from the job, because everybody knew if you meet some criminal, then you can, like, you can be killed for some jewelry you have and something like this. So like after the Second World War, which is the most interesting for me, because before it was Gulag, and then it became just just industrial town. That's how like this industrial town started as a town. So there was everyone mixed, and you can see also this political prisoners layer, which is quite interesting, because all of these guys, they are in the science, and because they have this institute developing the chemistry and developing the biology also, because these phosphorus distillers are used for the plants to grow, yeah, and the adaptation of plants for the north, it's all the scientific side of it, and it's kind of a special, it's kind of intellectual elites there. These political prisoners' descendants, and they're quite special, they're quite intelligent, so it's local intelligentsia. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
Really film. I'm a photographer myself, and I really enjoyed how I felt like it was a documentary photography project, but done through video, through film, which I found really interesting. I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate, because you've mentioned it briefly about humiliation, right? And what role this plays in creating this maybe this subjectivity of these people. I mean, I imagine that these people that were doing the humiliation, they were themselves humiliated probably in their childhood. I found it interesting that you mentioned it, and I noticed that as you put a lot of emphasis on this in the film. Thank you.
Yeah, this is BDSM stuff for sure. And like one said that this Gulag structure is made of prisoners and how do you call it? Sorry, I'll check out. I know I can't check because надзиратели, yeah. And of course, it's all about humiliation. Even being a надзиратель, I don't know, guys, you understand the word?
Prison guard, right?
Prison guard, yeah, the prison guard, the boss. It is all, like humiliation, because you will not have in mind, like to dominate on someone this way if you are out of this structure, if you never saw this. I think it depends on the character, and it depends on the family, and also in a goal. So like if someone is more lyrical and like, I can't say weak, but like doesn't have this like this character like this, you immediately become a prisoner, and like there is someone like telling you what to do. But like all the children, you can see it, like there is in the small scene in the middle of the film when two guys are reassembling the gun. And one, like fat one, he is, like already pressing on this thin guy. He said, I will do it better. I will, like I will show you. You do it too. Like you do it too slow. You can't, And he said, oh, you're, you're a loser. Let me show you how will I do this. So this is the process how it appears. How can I say who becomes надзиратель, who becomes the prisoner keeper? Maybe someone, of course, someone who was never humiliated will never have a thought about it, I think. But it depends on the character and how people adopt to the system, adopt themselves to the system. Someone is better, like some people survive by being on top of this. Some people survive by being invisible, and like this guy who who was not singing. It was same guy who was taught by this fat boy to how to reassemble the guy. He wasn't singing, so it wasn't his will to sing. But like in the end, he looks around and he hears that everyone's singing, and he starts singing also. So that's how it gets. And there are also, I was looking for the portraits of such children who don't take part. Like in the beginning, there's this girl that stands like this, such critical, skeptic face. I love it a lot. So she, she takes part and in it, but she actually doesn't like, and she makes it because her parents put her in this class. So it's all kind of characters, and like some revolutionaries, which could fight against the system. Probably we didn't catch them because they don't go there, or they are already out. But like this girl who was with the stub face in the dance class, I asked her because actually she also attended this military yeah. And I asked her, why do you go both here on this dance class and there? And she said, okay, because it is complicated for me, and in school boys are beating me, and I understood that I need to be strong, and here I learned to be strong. So will she become a prisoner? Will she become a revolutionary? Maybe I think. Will she become a boss? Yeah, I don't know. No one knows. But the thing is that that this is the way, like people think that they are becoming strong, though actually it is not. Because this kind of system produces the image that when you can, move in one rhythm, that when you can hold a gun, then you are strong. Yeah, so this is kind of a trick, which is actually a manipulation, which involves people in such systems. So, boys are beating me. Okay, what should I do? I should go and learn, to hold the gun.
But you get dominated there, and you become part of the system, so you're not winning in this sense. Okay, thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am from older generation, but what to say that I visited sometimes Russia and know a little bit another Russia. And in my view, during some time, last period, it's happened something with the education of youth, with the activities of the state toward education is such style which we saw. And as I understood now, you are somewhere abroad in Europe. Is it true? No? Where you are? In Russia?
I'm in St. Petersburg. No. I'm in Russia. Yeah.
Just Russia. It's not so bad case in Russia. If you are still there.
I have this, in front of my windows.
Great.
Yeah. I can't say that I'm really happy about it, but still, it's kind of when it started, I was thinking, you know, like what I do, and I decided that first thing I do, I don't run. So if it is the problem, then I'm here to, you know, like to at least then I do what I can. If I decide to go somewhere, then I go, but I don't run.
My wife is with me here, and she recommended to demonstrate this film to Western parliaments, maybe European Parliament, and so on, so that they will better understand what is happening and what are perspectives, and be more decisive in their policies towards the current war, because the sources of such people of youth are huge in Russia, and its resources practically are endless. And without some specific measures, other that the West now is inventing, it's better to change their policy more reactive way.
How would you change this policy? What
to Europe, to Ukraine.
Yeah. What do you think? What should be changed? You know, like in which way? What tells this film for you?
To demonstrate to Western politicians that situation is worse than they think, maybe, and it is no chance to change mentality of people from abroad. Of these people currently, for future maybe, but not for now. And your film demonstrates the necessity of help, of strong, much more strong help to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. But you know, like all the people can appear in such situation. I agree with you that it can't be changed from abroad. For sure, because the problems they don't have it abroad. Actually, they have it at the place they live. Yeah, and it is manipulated by Russian government that, you know, like these people should fight with something that is abroad, and this is the main point, you know. But the real thing that they have problems at their home, with which they should fight. How to make them see that it's a problem at their home? I don't know. If you know, like to be more reactive, if you know, like if you put, I will say you, if you put more guns against these kind of people, against these boys particularly, then what they will do, they will go and, you know, like fight for their home, because they have in the head, you remember this lesson of, you know, like about this day of national hero, yeah, what they are taught that, you know, like all the enemies are abroad, that the whole world is against them and they should fight. So, you know, like I think that more aggression and more violence causes more violence. What is, you know, like it is Russia's problem and Russia's fault was to start the war. And it's a great responsibility that everyone in Russia, you know, like has for this disaster. But if you put more violence, then you know, like everyone will appear in the situation of more violence, because there will be reaction. What I would do, I would you know, like talk to the people, because what I do here, when the war started, with the friends, we arranged a system of helping Ukrainian refugees here, because people ran everywhere. Was started to the west, to the east, you know, like to the place where there was no war. And what we created was a community of thousands of people helping Ukrainians here. And the goal was to make Russians take the responsibility, you know, like on the shit which happened there at the war. And I saw how this taking responsibility really worked. Because people, you know, after you saw the victim real victim of real war. You can't, you can't say it is good. You can't produce more aggression because you see that it is totally out of any, out of any idea of what is right. But if you put more aggression to these people, then they will, then they will react and bring more aggression. That's how it works. It was always like this.
I'm not in favor of killing more Russian people. I'm only want to say that success of Ukraine will help to change the political regime in Russia. I don't know how, but anyway, it is the only way. Thank you.
Hello, Ksenia.
No.
Thank you for film. It's good to see it one more time. I saw it once before the war started in Ukraine, and I couldn't even anticipate it. I mean, now we can see the conditions in which grew up the soldiers which fight today there. And of course, it's not their choice. They just end up there due to the circumstances. But I would like to go back to the film and the picture because I find it very, very beautiful, actually, and poetic, and so many metaphors which you use. Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit more, because it's not an activist film. It's like a film using artistic language to speak about a political issue. And that is why I find it strong, because you don't picture like protests, or you don't picture, but you picture the nature, you picture the environment, the darkness. I don't know, maybe it's specific to that area that there is not so much light during the day, but maybe you accentuate it also more in your film. And also I can imagine it was very difficult to shoot it in dark during the night, and like to produce a good picture. Probably it's not that easy actually to create this kind of environment. And yeah, we find a lot of metaphors between the trains, people, and how it all mixes together. So I know I don't really have a question. I think it's more like a comment, and I think that's why we like it, because it has very nice picture and a message which is visually communicated, because we don't hear so much text and explanations. It's all about the way you build the story with images and sound. So thank you very much for that experience.
Yeah, actually it was the DOP's suggestion to film in the polar night, because there's also polar day when the sun never goes down. And it feels actually also very special there, but it's totally different atmosphere. And the reason why he suggested this, because I said to him, Sasha, I need a fairy tale, because what we were filming was the myth, actually. The myth in which people stay like in the fairy tale, like this dreamlike state, like between sleep and being awake. And he said, okay, then we need to film at night. I said, you are crazy. We'll have no light. There's, like it's dark, like it's totally dark. It's totally dark. And he said, well, but if you have the sunlight, then you can see the situation. These gray buildings, gray, like this kind of depressive industrial landscape. So, like then you show this picture and everything is clear from the beginning, like why the life is going on there like this. So to produce this feeling of, like a little bit of mystery, to make it just a little bit sexy, and to get the viewer involved into this fairy tale where, like some strange military stuff and some dances happen, and you always balance between if it is beautiful or if it is scary. if it is if it is depressive or if it is bright, of what's going on there. And like this kind of mixed elusive feeling, we would never get it if we filmed a day. So it was totally genius decision, I think, coming from the DOP, and I am really thankful for it. And actually, it was a great task for the DOP, because I wanted to put everything in the picture, and it was hard to make it because the context is huge. But on the other side, people know this context. So quite a lot of people know the story of Gulag, of Stalin times, and like it's obvious. You can read it. You can read a book or article about it. And for me, it was more important to film the current process in this context, and to fix this kind of a dreamy state when you can't be really decisive, that you can't make your own decisions because you are like this. You are floating between the myth and this industrial rhythm of living. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, that was my goal, and it was a challenge actually for the crew to make, and for the editor also.
Actually, I also have a question. It came to my mind. I had it, but I forgot. Now I remembered it. The question is related also to these institutions which are active in that area, which are few, I suppose, but where everything is happening, it is like, I mean, the dances and the military exercises. This is a kind of house of culture, or is it? Yeah, that's what I understood. And that is also interesting to see in your film, that this extreme where a place which is for art, for freedom of thinking, of expression, supposed to be like like we are here in a cultural center as well. It's not a cinema, it's a community cultural center where artists meet and work. So this kind of place should actually encourage you to think beyond the frame, and what we see in the film is actually that the cultural institutions in Russia today or before actually are places of indoctrination, and not so much as what an art could mean. Even dances or music is becoming a tool for indoctrinating. So it's like it's very direct, I would say, how you also use it's not spoken, but it's like becomes kind of clear that even art is a tool, and that is this is the culture actually which couldn't stop a war to happen. That is the how to say, the conclusion actually, that we have a state culture which is not helping people become free, but rather indoctrinating them.
And the question is?
That was. But if anyone else has a question, please.
No, I want to comment. If it was just a replica, that I can comment it. I loved your thought about the way of like creating this spot for art. Yeah, this house of culture or any artistic organization, of being indoctrinated or not. Actually, a lot of art organizations, also in Europe now, they are in kind of not in that way, of course, not in that totalitarian way, but they are indoctrinated. And of course, this culture that I show, it's not all the culture of Russia, but what we have, it's process which is very visible, of course, and very, very, very violent in Russia, but it happens everywhere in the world, of like art becoming art, part of some ideology, and creating these circles of communities which express through their art a certain how to say correctly, a certain ideology, probably. Yeah. And it's a pity that the society actually falls apart on these communities expressing a certain ideology, because this is a way to fight. Because if one ideology becomes the major one, yeah, it's good when it is a lot of this stuff, yeah, everywhere. But if one of such ideology, very fixed and very, like kind of indoctrinating, yeah, becomes major one, then you have totalitarian state. And the good thing for art ever was to communicate and to accept everything. Same for the people. When you accept everything, and you let everything happen, and you exchange, and you build the bridges, then you can develop and you can insist on your own art. It doesn't mean losing yourself, yeah. It means that you are in contact with anything and you accept anything. You let anything happen. If it comes that, like, I insist on something, and here's my community insisting on something, on some ideology, on some form, on anything like this, then you have House of Culture, of course. And for me, it's a great problem. Also, I write, I write fiction script now, which is about love. And surprisingly, I had a protagonist in living, documentary protagonist, after which I wrote it. And I was so surprised when I found that there are so much in their, like, ideology that it goes into their bed even. So the story is about this, and well, it's really a situation in which we exist. Yeah, so it was very, very good comment. Thank you for it.
Thank you.
Hello again. I didn't hear very well. You said you had a fiction project about love. I wanted to just hear about that more clearly. It sounded very interesting.
Yeah. I during this time I wrote already one fiction script. This is the second one, which I started this year. Yeah. Actually, it is extremely hard to make documentary in Russia these days. So it is, it is outlaw. It's total outlaw. Yeah, and so I made a this fiction script last year, and this one about love. By the end of previous year, I thought, fuck, I'm so tired of fighting with this political stuff and pressure and everything. I want to think next year only about love. Though, from my point, everything that we can do is, like, produce more love in the world in any sense. Like, you can fix this broken world only by bringing more love into it. You can fix fear by bringing more love. You can fix humiliation also by bringing more love. Doesn't mean loving your enemy. It means first loving yourself. Not letting anyone, like, humiliating you, and all of this, and yeah, and then, like, on the 2nd of January, I went to the bookstore to find some documentary story, like, which for the inspiration, and I found, like, Gulag, war, repressions. I found some of this topic on the bookshelf. I said, "Fuck, no! I have no power to work with this." And then I went to the cafe and found some guys who told me their love story. I was so lucky. Yeah, and it started so sweet, and it started so free and risky, and like, in all sense beautiful. And then, like, I found that, like, this Romeo and Juliet story, like, breaks on the walls not of their families, but of their ideological circles. Which they can't pass through. Yeah, it was a great. I'm really into this project now, and I made quite profound discoveries already during this short time of 3 months that I'm into this script.
It's a love story set in Russia?
It is it's set in Russia. It's set in the eastern countries also, because they travel. But it in the end, where the film will be set, it depends on where I sell the script.
Okay, it's an intimate story. Fantastic. I will. The reason I ask is because I look forward to it after seeing that. So I'll I'll be waiting for it, and I'll watch it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ksenia, I think we more or less finished. I think nobody else has more questions. So I wanted to thank you in the name of everybody who came here today for joining us, for make this great documentary. And yeah, we wish you very good luck with your future projects, and I hope you maybe in the future we will see you again here joining us.
Hopefully. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting, and it was a pleasure to talk. And I'm really curious what is happening in your art center. I would love to meet with you guys live.